everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you again. This is probably the longest that I've consistently recorded for a season. I don't know. Actually, season one might top this. Season two was such a chaotic period in my life where I didn't really feel like I had anything actually good to share because my life felt like a mess. And I was like, I don't really want to share how much of my life feels like a mess right now. But we are here, and when I was, okay, backstory, back up a little bit. So this week specifically, but overall this time period, but like this week for me, is filled with a lot of changes, a lot of new things, new opportunities, new alignments, and I'm just kind of rolling with whatever my gut, my intuition is leading me towards. And so far, it's worked out great. I've been really happy with the steps that are being made, the progress that's happening, like all good things across the board. And I was taking a little bit of a moment to reflect some of my own personal changes that I've noticed kind of within the way that I navigate these situations. And I was remembering a time in my life when, so for example, like I shared last week, I'm kind of starting to date again. Like I've been meeting some people, having some conversations, and I haven't really been in this space of getting to know someone new for a long time. And I noticed there was a big difference with the way that I communicate with the people I've been meeting, the people I've been connecting with. The main difference being that I don't really recognize the version of me that is navigating these dynamics, these new ventures, but I like her. I like it. I feel like it's the most real me that I've ever been able to experience, and I feel like every day I get to notice a new thing that it's this weird contrast because it's so unfamiliar because I'm like I've never been this version of me before. But also it feels so familiar because I'm like, "Oh, this is the real me. This is what I at my core soul level actually am like and actually enjoy and actually like to behave as." So, one big way I've noticed this is like for so many years of my life, I prided myself on being the cool girl. I was always the cool girl in relationships. And this was primarily when I was younger, like high school, like early college years. I was always just like, I don't know, like all of the ways that that would manifest. Like I was the girlfriend that was like, "Oh, I'll go to strip clubs with you." And like I don't care if you go do this with your boys and neglect me and never spend any time with me. I actually never allowed myself to have any needs. I didn't I never like I was always the peacemaker. I was always the cool girl. I was always like, I'm fine with anything. I'm so cool. And I got a lot of affirmation from that and a lot of validation from that because I was the kind of standard of what society said is like the best type of girl. So I got a lot of what I thought was fulfillment, but was actually just propping up this kind of bullshit standard that we've collectively decided is the way to be under the patriarchy. And I was like I was checking all the boxes. Like I was hot and I was fun and I could drink beer and I could take whiskey shots and I like to have my brown liquor neat and I never complained about anything. I and I did this for years. Like so many years of my life were wasted being the cool girl, being the understanding one, being the one that like, oh, nothing ruffles me. I'm fine. Like it's all good. We'll figure it out. There's this big shift recently where I'm not that way at all. Like, not even a little bit. If there's something that I don't want or I don't agree with or doesn't meet my standards, I have zero issue. advocating for myself, my needs, my wants, my desires. Like none. It doesn't even make me uncomfortable. Like I don't I used to sit there and oh my God, there was like this pathway of like when I first started dating in like high school and then into college and in those early years and like even when I was married, I just put up with everything. I just accepted everything. And I was always like so chill, so cool. Everyone was like, "Man, your girlfriend's so like she's so cool, she's so understanding, she's so this, so that." And I loved getting that affirmation. I loved getting that validation because to me, that translated like, oh, yeah, I'm doing the right thing that I've always done. I'm being unproblematic. I'm not, I'm putting my needs aside. I'm sacrificing what I need for the sake of keeping others happy. I just fell so easily into that pattern because it was what I was conditioned for. So it mirrored everything that I'd always been used to. Like we talk about all the time, it's always easier to stay in a familiar hell than an unfamiliar heaven. So my familiar hell was never having needs, never rocking the boat, never advocating for myself, never having any boundaries. Because if you don't have any boundaries, then nothing can be crossed. Then there's no problems, then there's no fight, then there's no issue. And like thinking about how I went from that to like I started dipping my toes in the water of asking for what I needed. And I remember there was someone that I was dating was like the first person I was seeing after my separation, where he was very like classic avoidant person always kept me at arm's length. I thought that this person was like the love of my life, and it was a total love bombing situation. Like, we met in one of the most vulnerable points in my life, and like a week after we met, he was like taking me on a trip to Chicago and like wine and dining me, and like he started flying me places with him. And but like we never got to know each other, like truly know each other. We never got to see the real sides of each other. He didn't let me see his, and I sure as fuck didn't let him see mine because I was not going to be problematic. I wasn't going to dare have needs. I wasn't going to dare need anything from him because my processing, it had always been communicated to me that the second that you need anything, there's no safety. That person can leave. You're not allowed to have needs. You're not allowed. And that, what I know now after so many years of doing this work and what I understand now is that that actually severs the bonds of intimacy. There's no true intimacy without vulnerability. Vulnerability comes from trusting yourself and to some extent the other person enough to say, hey, I'm going to tell you what I need. You can reject it and hurt me. It's trusting that you and the bond and the person are all there's enough love there, true love, true respect to let them risk hurting you, let them risk rejecting your needs. And that was something I'd never in my life experienced. Never. Like not once. And so I started kind of dipping my toes in with this person wherein I and this is so bad. To think about like how many hoops I jumped through in my 20s for like the sake of trying to keep a man happy is crazy. I want to put myself in timeout for all of those years because how embarrassing to do that for a boy. Anyway, I remember calling like one of my girlfriends on the phone, and I would sit there and rehearse with her for a, like an hour sometimes about how to form a very simple text where I just like wanted to know if plans were still on. This is real. This is actually something I used to commit so much time and energy to because I didn't have enough internal fortitude. I didn't have enough experience. I didn't have enough self-confidence, enough backbone because I'd never developed it. An underworked or essentially never worked muscle to ever ask for anything that I needed. So I didn't know how to do that. And I would sit there and I would craft this so unneedy message. This so like, hey, let me know. If not, that's okay, and I would do it in such a way that like it's so crazy to think about how much time and energy I put into crafting something that he probably like dismissed 5 seconds after looking at it. And it would be like if he said that we were gonna do dinner this day and I hadn't heard from him in a couple days, I would spend upwards of an hour on the phone with my girlfriend being like, okay, but should I say it this way or should I say it this way? Or should I do this or should I do that? And honestly, thank God for her. She was so patient with me. Like, but she probably should have slapped me and been like, well, what are you doing? This is a boy. This is a man. Like, this is not that serious. This is silly that you're acting like this. But bless her heart, she didn't. She was very sweet. She was very patient, very calm and kind about my truly just like neurotic behavior about crafting a very simple text asking for clarity on plans. Because my mind thought that if I seemed too needy or if I had any needs at all, if I needed just basic clarity, hey, we still going to dinner Friday? If not, totally fine. Just let me know so I can make other plans. So freaking easy. But my brain, my mind associated that with rejection. And at that point, I was so infatuated with this person based on nothing, based on feeling like I was finally really important to someone, even though I was never important enough to create true intimacy with. And it was the classic, like, couple months situationship after your marriage ends that like it takes you years to get over. Like I think I grieved that for such a long time. And it was because it was the manifestation of my cycle repeating, where I subconsciously was attracted to somebody who was completely emotionally unavailable, had essentially like told me that there was no future between us, but was still keeping me engaged for his own enjoyment. And I actually don't think I've ever talked about this person now that I think about it. Maybe I have. But like I knew, and I just created this fantasy in my mind of what it could be because it was me trying to seek out what I'd never gotten from that avatar as a kid. My whole what I'd always wanted as a kid was for the emotionally unavailable parent to one day love me enough to choose to be emotionally available for me. I wanted to feel like I was worthy because if they changed their behavior for me, then that would mean I was special. That would mean I was worthy. That would mean that I was valuable enough for them to change for. And I subconsciously repeated that same pattern where I did everything to change for that person while somehow equating that if I do everything to change for them, they'll also change for me. That's not how it works. And it took me a lot of years to not only understand that, but accept it. And that was my first kind of slight dip into semi advocating for any needs that I had because I never wanted to be the person that pushed someone away. I was so afraid of someone rejecting me and saying that I was too much or I needed too much or, you know what, this just isn't the right fit. So I'm going to move on with my time. And of course, like eventually we ended things and haven't talked since. Like it never happened again and have long moved on from it. But it was interesting to kind of see the transition. That was like that first little bit of, okay, maybe I'm allowed to just like ask a question because I'd never even done that before. I had just succumbed to what everyone else wanted. I didn't even question it. I didn't even get curious. I didn't ask for clarity. I didn't do anything. I just completely morphed myself into the coolest, most chill, most accepting version of whatever that person wanted, which is why no one ever got the real me. And I think it was also a little bit of like a safety mechanism because if you never get the real me, then you can never reject the real me. It was the fawning response playing out in real time. That was my default response for many, many years was to fawn, was to basically cater to the people that were abusing me so that I had some chance of survival. Because when you're in a space where you can't physically escape, you don't have any tools or resources to be able to process any of what's happening to you in the proper way, you have to cope in some form. And mine was to people please. Mine was to fawn. Mine was to never even consider that I might want something, that I might have needs. It was to just always play the role of the chill, cool, understanding girl. And after I started to dip my toe into, okay, well, maybe I can just ask for clarity sometimes in the right way, taking an hour to craft a 3-sentence text message to make sure I do it in the right way. Like this was like crawling before we sprinted. Okay. This was like I was just learning how to put one foot in front of the other. And it went from that to kind of starting to have some standards. And this evolved the more I started to work on myself. Like the objective was never to try and understand how to create healthy boundaries and stand by healthy boundaries because I didn't think that I needed to do that. I had not gotten to that point in my understanding of what is important to human relationships to even think that that was important. It just kind of naturally started evolving when I worked more on myself, when I started to try and hear and heal those parts of myself that had been dormant, that had been suppressed, because it always starts with you. If you're not hearing your own needs, how is anybody else going to be able to hear them? If you don't know how to tune into your own boundaries and your own standards, how is anybody else going to be able to? It has to come from you hearing and loving and understanding yourself first. And yes, being with somebody who does these things can be so incredibly healing. I am aware of so many situations where somebody came in and somebody came into the dynamic and their partner brought a sense of safety, of care, of love, of acceptance, of meeting their vulnerability with respect, of meeting their vulnerability with respect and understanding. And that allowed them to be able to have that space of safety to experiment with advocating for their needs or and healing that part of themselves that had never been allowed to fully feel or express those things. But in my case, that wasn't the way that it played out. In my case, I had to do it to myself first. In my case, I had to first start to remove the ice layers that had been keeping those parts of me that had needs protected for so many years. Because I was just trying to survive. I was just trying to like, what's the best way to get through this hell that I'm going through? Subconsciously, my brain was like, what's the path of least resistance? Okay, if we don't rock the boat, if we don't have needs, if we don't ever ask for anything, if we don't advocate for ourselves, if we're the cool girl, if we're the understanding girl, if we're the girl who's always keeping the peace, then chances are there's not going to be as much emotional reaction around you. So you got to handle the shit for everyone. You're not allowed to have needs because you're busy taking care of everyone else's. And when I finally got the space to be able to, remove those layers, those barriers, those years of all of that emotion and all of that feeling being stored in my body, when I got to finally start unpacking that and hearing that, I was like, wow, man, I really do. I have needs like every person. I have things that cross boundaries for me. I have things that I'm not okay with. I have standards that I don't accept. I have lines that I refuse to let be crossed. And I started getting curious about what those were and started creating more conversations within relationships. And it was hard. It took years of practice in friendships, in romantic dynamics, in even work situations. I think that was probably one of the ways that this played out the longest because I my conditioning ran so deep to never question anyone in authority that that was probably the last one that I undid, was being able to advocate for myself in a work setting where my needs are not being met. My boundaries are being crossed. That one was really hard. I kind of just accepted the slop and the horrible situations from employers for like many years um, before I learned how to advocate for myself in those roles. There was one, oh my gosh, I shouldn't bring this up, but I'm going to lightly touch on it. There was one that it wasn't until like a couple years ago. I was like, they were really paying me like pennies to do so much work. There were so many things that they kind of dangled in front of me and said, hey, if you do this, we'll give you this. We'll give you this compensation. We'll give you this bonus structure. We'll offer this. And I just believed it. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I jumped in to do it and I did it all right. And it never happened. Nothing ever changed. I was basically just barely surviving. And that job really damaged my health because of the stress I was under and because my workload and because of just everything that I was navigating at that time too. It was just horrible. And I remember like, I think about that now and I'm like, why didn't you ever there's grace there. There's grace here for myself, but it is crazy how me at this age, at this stage in my life, would have handled that situation so differently. And it was like in my, mid to late 20s, where I just took so much beating from these environments and from these people because I was so deeply conditioned to never advocate for me. And now I'm like, that no. I would have changed that so fast if I was me now in that role. I never would have taken it in the first place, but I would have changed a lot of things. I would have advocated for myself because that's not wrong. There was something within me that associated having standards and having boundaries and advocating for your needs with it being something that was a problem. And you would think that it wouldn't be that way because everyone else was getting their needs met by me. I was taking care of everyone else's needs. So I clearly accepted that everyone had needs except for me. I clearly could see and didn't judge people that had needs and that advocated for them, but I just wouldn't do that myself. And it's been very interesting to see how easy it is at this point now that I've healed that nervous system response. Now that I've gotten my body out of this state where it feels unsafe when these situations for conflict or for confrontation come up. It's like uh, I don't feel anything. It's like I might as well be talking about the weather. I don't feel unsafe in my body anymore anytime that there's an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had. I go full bore into it. And it's a lot easier to do it in the right manner because there's not the emotional charge behind it. A lot of times people avoid conflict because they feel like they won't be able to keep a lid on the emotions, but that's because there's suppression. I use this analogy a lot with my clients. It's like you are a shaken up Coke bottle and, someone got you out of the vending machine, shook you up to death. And if you take the lid off all at once, of course, you're going to explode. Everything spills out. It's a whole mess. You can't get it back in. That's, yes, what happens when you suppress. But the work that we do and the proper way to do this is like a Coke bottle that's shaken out, that's ready to explode. You let a little bit out at a time, We're just very lightly controlling the release. And then it doesn't all blow up in your face. It doesn't all explode out of nowhere. The more that you suppress, the more you're creating that tension. The more that you suppress, the more that you are silencing your body's needs, that it's not going to dissipate. It's not going to calm down. It's not going to go away. It's not just going to be like, you know what? I'm okay with not having needs. I'm okay with not advocating for myself. Your body stores that pain, and it's going to come out one way or another. It can come out through illness, autoimmune disease, pain. It can come out in your relationships. Most often, it comes out on you because you're the one that's not feeling it. You're the one that's not giving it space to exist. And so you actually regain your power by allowing yourself to have space to experience these things. You lose the emotional charge when you allow your body to feel the suppressed emotions, when you allow your body to experience those things in a way that is conducive, in a way that helps you to process them out of your system and move forward. So that when you do have conversations, when there is confrontation, that is necessary to happen because, hello, we're all different human beings with different needs, and we all have different life experiences and different ways of seeing the world and different goals. So there's never going to be a world where everything is peaceful and perfect and everyone agrees 100% on the same things. There's always going to be opportunities for understanding that come from confrontation. And I don't even mean confrontation, like when I say that, I don't mean it in like a fighting way. Confrontation is just a disagreement between two people, but I actually think that that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to create more understanding between the two of you, whether it's in business, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a friendship, anything. Being able to have those conversations where you say, hey, here's my perspective, here are my needs, here are my non-negotiables, here are the things that I think, but I'm willing to compromise on. And if you and the other person can do that, it's other than very strict moral or ethical things, it's pretty easy to find a solution forward because your needs matter too. Your boundaries matter too. The things that cross you, those matter. The things that make you feel unsafe or unseen or unheard, that matters. That's not okay to accept that. You shouldn't accept that because even if you feel mentally that accepting it is safer, your body the entire time is taking hit after hit after hit after hit of accepting something that is crossing your boundaries that you're not supposed to accept. That's why we have emotions. Emotions exist to show us what we like, what we dislike, where our boundaries have been crossed, where we need to move towards something. That's why we have them. We go through the world feeling our way through life, even though we think we go through the world intellectualizing our way through life. Your body's feeling it all the time. And by learning how to give that space, learning how to listen to that little nudge where someone you're talking to or on a date with says something that you don't agree with or that crosses your boundaries, or you feel like you're not getting the communication that signals respect, you feel like there's a missed opportunity for connection. Maybe there's a misalignment. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. You won't know until you get out of that fawn response where you're just people pleasing everyone and instead learn how to advocate for yourself, for your needs, and do it in a way where you can stand in that. It's not even a second thought. It's not something you have to craft a text message for an hour on the phone with your friend for. You're just able to be like, hey, when this happened, it made me feel this way. I felt disrespected, or I felt unimportant, or I felt like you weren't really valuing me or this situation. And I would appreciate if Instead, it were this. And they can do one of two things. They can agree with you or they can disagree with you. It's kind of it. And either way, you're fine. Because guess what? Even if they disagree, even if they say, you're asking for too much, or they say, I don't agree with that. I think you're being too needy. I think you need to accept this. I think you need to be more understanding of me or the situation or the environment, blah, 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 blah. That's your signal. That's your green light to be like, oh, okay, this isn't aligned. One of you is going to have to give. And if it crosses something that you know is a need or something that's incredibly important to you, something that you need for respect, something that you need to feel safe, something that you need to feel valued, feel important, then it's not for you. And you need to move on to something else that is someone else, somewhere else, where you feel honored. Because the ultimate form of self-betrayal is staying in an environment where you are not held with honor, care, integrity, respect. After you identify that, after you understand that, you have a responsibility to yourself to change the situation, change the person, change the environment. Not be the cool girl. Not just accept whatever bullshit disrespect that's occurring. Not just be like, you know what? I've always taken care of everyone else's needs before my own, so I'm going to stick with that because it's what I know best. What? No. You have one life. Maybe we have multiple. I don't know. Maybe we reincarnate. But for now, what we know is that we have one life. Can you imagine if you get to the end of your life, you're 95 years old on your deathbed, and you've spent your whole life only doing what other people wanted you to do, and you never, ever did or said what was important to you? You spent your whole life people pleasing. You spent your whole life taking care of the needs of others. You spent your whole life putting yourself last. And then it's over. That's it. You spent your entire time on earth experiencing your life by only taking care of everyone else instead of you getting to experience it taking care of you. Which, by the way, is like your one job. Unless you're a parent, then you got to take care of your kids too. But like outside of that, your one job for your entire life is to take care of you. You are your first love. You are your best friend. You are your biggest advocate. You are the only one that's got your back from here to the end. So what are you doing? If you saw the person that you loved most in the world letting their boundaries be crossed, being disrespected, being pushed aside, being manipulated, lied to, devalued, what would you do? Would you just sit there and watch it happen and be like, oh well, sucks for you? No, not if you love that person more than anything. You'd be like, hey, I think there's a problem here. I think you need to advocate for yourself. I think this is not a good environment for you. I think this person is not good for you. I've been there. I've had friends pull me aside and be like, hey, this person is not good for you. They're not good for where you're going. They are not good for your life. You are too important to allow this to continue, to allow this disrespect to continue. That's a good friend. You have to be that to you first because you are your only true advocate in this entire world. That's your number one responsibility. You got to take care of you. And part of taking care of you is recognizing where you've allowed yourself to fall into those people-pleasing patterns of being the unproblematic, unneedy, goes along with anything, whatever, I can handle it all, cool girl. That's done. It's a bunch of bullshit made up by the patriarchy to keep women small and oppressed. It's over. That's not what we're doing anymore. Instead, we're getting loud. We're advocating for our needs. We're taking up space. We're talking about what's important to us. We're negotiating. We are asking for what we're worth. We are stepping into a space of recognizing what is important to us and what is worth advocating for. You are worth advocating for. You have to do it for you. And it allows you to step into this space of like this radical self-love where you're like, man, you get to prove to yourself, no matter what happens, I got me. I've got me. No matter what happens, I know I'm always going to take care of me. I know I'm always going to advocate for me. I know I'm always going to show up for me. I know I'm always going to voice what my needs are. It's such a cool moment, it's especially healing if you didn't get to have that growing up. If you didn't have the parent that heard your needs and took care of your needs and said, let me hear you, let me understand, let me help you. Break those patterns. Maybe your parent didn't do it and they should have, but they didn't. And that sucks. It's always going to suck. But you can do it for yourself now. You can be your best advocate, your best listener, your best friend now. And it starts with hearing yourself first. It starts with not ignoring and putting on a show and making everyone else happy while your needs get pushed down in the background. It starts by hearing, it starts by listening, it starts by tuning in to that little voice that says, actually, this doesn't work for me. Actually, you know what? I'm going to have to take some time and think about this because right now, with the way it is, I don't think this is the right fit. I don't think this is the right situation. That's okay. You're just aligning yourself with what is, with the person that is, with the opportunity that is, with the job that is, with the friendships that are. That's where you get what you want when you don't settle for silencing your needs, when you don't settle for crossing your boundaries. Stop being the cool girl. She sucks. She's actually not cool at all. She's lame. She keeps you small. She keeps you weak. She's kind of pathetic. A little bit of a loser. Just trying to like suck up to the man for what? We're done with that. We're done with that. You're better than that. You deserve more than that. I want you to do that this week. I want you to practice in some way. Maybe you aren't ready to take it as far as advocating with your voice, and that's okay. Baby step. If you're already good at hearing what your needs are, but you're just not used to advocating for them, maybe in a small way, with as safe of a person as you can find, do that. And it can be so silly. Like you and your friend are going to dinner and she wants to go to sushi, but you want Italian. Hey, I would love to get sushi, but I'm actually craving Italian a little bit more. Is it okay if we go there together? Like just that little practice signals to your body, oh, we're speaking up for ourselves. Okay, cool. This is all right. We can pick that other food. Or maybe if you don't know how to hear your needs, that's your starting point. What do I actually want? What's important to me? What do I truly need to feel good, to feel safe, to feel valuable, to feel like I'm being taken care of? Listening to that is the first little key to unlocking. So try it. Let me know how it looks for you. Let me know how it feels for you. As always, I love when you guys email me, DM me, reach out in some way and share what you got from this or what practices you're putting into play, how they worked out for you. I keep up with it as much as I can. I always get to it at some point. I love it. So please reach out if this resonated. And as always, I love you. I'm rooting for you. I believe in you, you little badass self-advocator. And I will talk to you next week.